and every American taxpayer and resident. Now, that's a comprehensive estimate. It includes law enforcement resources, insurance, homeowners increases due to the crime. It includes unnecessary medical treatments, the medical resources that are wasted and oftentimes not recovered. There's many, many parts to it, but trust me when I say it affects each and every one of us. About a little over a year ago, many very concerned individuals, some of which are in this room tonight, banded together at the request of several mothers who lost children. I say children, teenagers, they're still children to us, to drug addiction. And out of that, a group was formed called HEAL, Heroin Epidemic Awareness Group. And if it's done nothing else, it's forced me to learn about the problem and what needs to be done to address the problem. And one thing that's been clear through all the studies and all the research and all the forums is that it's a very complex problem. It's going to require a lot to solve this, to stem this epidemic, and to eventually reverse it. It's going to require action at the national level, at the state level, and at the local level. No single piece of legislation is going to substantially change this, but every piece will contribute. Every piece, every tool will contribute to helping address this issue. I know at this, especially in this day and age, many businesses, large and small, feel inundated with government regulations and unnecessary laws. And all I want to ask is of the legislatures and the merchants, before you make up your mind whether you're for or against this law, and in this rush to do away with much of the regulation that our country has, I'd like you to at least consider the benefit of a law as opposed to the inconvenience and the cost. I know the authors of this law have done everything they possibly can, and I'm sure they continue to lessen the burden on merchants in any way they can. And in closing, I just want to say that while we're trying to streamline our society, our economy, and we're trying to get rid of regulation and lighten the burden on businesses, which I personally am all for, I just want everyone to consider every law isn't bad. And when you're faced with the decision of whether to pass a law or whether not to, please base it on whether the good that law will bring outweighs the inconvenience. I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Sean.
And
Thanks. Okay, would anyone else like to speak? So again, if you can state your name, your address, and please limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sean Butler, Chief of Police Officer, Police Department. My address is 38 Prospect Street in the city. Like the sheriff stated earlier, we tried to get this law underway 10 years ago, which I was a part of back then. And we didn't get the traction that we were hoping, and here we are today, and I appreciate us at this point where we are with the proposal. Basically, real quick, I just want to support and let the legislature know that the Elbert Police Department is in support of this law. This is another tool for us to not only combat, like Mr. Sosi so eloquently said, the heroin epidemic that we have locally, but just victimization of theft that we have rampant in this county. This will help us recover some of that property. So, as my Deputy Chief Roger Anthony is here as well, you know, we've been debating purchasing this lease online because it's an investment for us as well. It's not a cheap tool, but with the success of where Detective Lieutenant Skank has gotten with this legislation, we chose to go ahead and purchase it last week. And one of our detectives, just a quick story, her first input, she's dealing with a local theft of some property, tools, and outside equipment from a local nonprofit. As soon as she put in the articles into the Leads Online, that same day, she located the items in Syracuse that had been pawned, that without this tool, there's no way we would have been able to recover this property. So it was an instantaneous success for us. We can only assume that we're gonna have multitudes of successes, which leads to ultimately, like Brian stated, stopping the funding, one funding source of these addicts in their quest for, to feed their addiction. Again, this is not a be-it-all, solve-all problem, but this is a tool to assist us as a community to trying to prevent and save another life. So in closing, thank you. Again, we are in full support of this law. I would always be available to answer any questions. Any legislatures or anybody in the community I know are merchants as well. Feel free to call us, and I appreciate what Brian and the sheriff have done thus far. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. What? Again, if you could state your name, your address, and limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Adam Duckett, Spiderman Road in Aurelius. Also county coroner. Over the past couple of years that I've been in office, I've obviously seen the end of the road for a lot of people that battle addiction. And I can tell you that a good majority of the people that do end up in one of my body bags that night or the night before ended up going to sell a piece of merchandise, collect the money, and then end up usually getting the bag that ended up killing them. So it is very, very frustrating to see this happen. And if there's any way we could even save one life from this, in my opinion, it's worth it. I certainly am in support of making this as not as much of an issue to local businesses. I mean, as a physician, I know regulations from the government probably more than I should in a lot of the inconveniences that sometimes they impose. But when sometimes they are actually, of the benefit of a human life, I think that that's certainly something to consider. So that's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Please, again, if you could state your name, your address, and limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes, please.
Just so you know, I'm nervous. My name is Geraldine Gray. I own Grandma Jerry's Emporium. I am a merchant. I am for the law. I will say that. I am for Leads Online. I'm on there. I'm not for the $150 that I have to pay. I don't believe that I should have to pay to buy stuff, put stuff up online, and pay for your administrative fees, because I have my own administrative fees, and no one's gonna pay for those for me. And for Leads Online, it's free. To me, it's free. I don't know about anybody else, but I know for me to put it up there, it's free. And I believe that I pay enough tax dollars that should be covered under that. I will do what I can to help the drug addiction, and as a former addict myself, I'll do whatever I can. They have, us not buying their stuff or whatever is not gonna help them. I can honestly say that. They have to wanna do it themselves. But I will do whatever I can, but I don't wanna have to pay $150 every single year. If I can't afford it, I'll have to raise prices and I'll go out of business. May not seem a lot to you guys, but it is to us, because we keep our prices low, because we're secondhand merchants. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Sheriff?
Madam?
No,
Ma'am,
Sheriff, no.
there is no
Sheriff,
free-
Sheriff, no, I'm sorry.
okay.
We're not discussing any of the
we're-
thing.
I-
I understand what you're gonna say, but
Yeah.
we can't get into a discussion like that.
No, that's fine.
Not the purpose of tonight. So, would is there someone, yes. And again, if you could state your name, your address, and limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes.
by saying, thanks for letting me offer my perspective. And I do believe that we do have a problem, and I think that it's discussions like this that are gonna help us to figure out the best way to deal with that problem. My husband and I are antique dealers, and we don't have an open shop. And we also don't buy very much in Cayuga County. We purchase a lot of our items at auctions, at antique shops, antique shows. A lot of that is out of the county, a lot of that is out of state at times. We go on vacation. The law as it reads now, I'm still a little unclear as to whether my husband and I need to register as a secondhand dealer in this county or not. And it's the confusion I have when I read the local law that makes me concerned. So I guess the first question is, does this law apply only to items purchased within Cayuga County? And in the law, I was a little unclear as to what types of items a person like me, an antique dealer, would be required to report. Is it everything that we would purchase, or is it certain types of items, and what are those types of items? I guess in addition, you have an exemption section in the local law, section 4, exemption from licensing requirement. There is a letter H that does speak about antique dealers directly, but even in that section, I'm still a little unclear as to where I fall personally. So the only thing I can do is offer my confusion to you to say that it's just not clear to me what is gonna be required. Here I guess I wanna say is that there's many ways that an antique dealer can buy. There are many places. Public auction is one of them. Is that an estate sale? If a person passes away and their items go into an auction for an estate sale, is that an estate sale? Or what do you mean? And you say that items purchased from estate sales, garage sales, or yard sales would be exempt. Well, what about antique shops? What about, if we got a house call? What if our neighbor calls us and says, my mom passed away, can you look at this stuff and see what I should do with it? Because they wouldn't go to a local pawn shop for it. What am I supposed to do? Am I exempt from getting a license because I buy outside the county mostly, or do I have to get a license just for that one purchase? It would be my suggestion that perhaps the law could simply say if an antique dealer has a secondhand New York State ID, where they're required to get a New York State resale number to be an antique dealer, would that exempt them from having to register as a secondhand dealer in the county? I guess just more clarification is needed in my view as to what constitutes it. I'm not getting people coming to me saying, would you like to buy this because I need money to pay for drugs? That's not my perspective here. And yet we have a very small business. It's my husband and myself, and we have a 9-year-old daughter, and I have no time, quite honestly. And I realize that everybody's in the same position, but I'm very concerned that this is gonna put a lot of extra work on my shoulders that I can't see where that time or money might come from it. Thank you.
Thank you. Smith. And again, and I know I sound a little bit like a broken record, but if you could be sure to state your name, your address, and limit your comments.
Unlike a lot of people, I probably wouldn't have needed this microphone, although I think the sound system in here should be improved. I've had a heck of a time hearing people. My name is Doneen Pilot, D-O-N-E-E-N, Pilot, P-I-L-A-T. I live at 8001 State Street Road in Troop, but the address is Fort Byron. I agree with Jennifer with a lot of what she said. I too am classified as an antique dealer, but actually I'm more of a collectibles dealer, okay? I sell in Madison County and Oneida County and all the shows at the state fairgrounds and others in Onondaga County, and other places across the state. I do not have a shop here in town or in the Cayuga County. If I sell in this county, I just recently started selling at the craft show that's at the college in December. Don't take crafts, I take secondhand Christmas items and like that. At two of the churches, my own and the Methodist Church on South Street here in Auburn. I set up at those two places kind of as a dealer or as a favor to the churches, so that, just to bring in people is all. So that's the only times that I sell here in the county. And I have bought at the auction house next to the lady over here, over by the prison there, that Sean Harvey has. But I will stop buying there if it means buying that's the only place I buy in the county, if it means that I have to abide by this law. I sell, like I said, I think it needs to be clarified. Most of what I sell is like from $1 to $15. It's, I'm not saying I don't sell anything that's more expensive than that. God knows I have 3 grandchildren that are college age. I want things to be improved for young people as far as addiction is concerned. But I just can't see how me taking a picture of every single little thing that I buy and sending it to the sheriff's office, I couldn't possibly do that. Number one, I don't even have a computer. I don't have a cell phone. I don't have that kind of money. I just would like it clarified more, please, for those of us that just deal in little bitty tchotchkes and so on. There's two people that run shops in Fort Byron that just sell little knickknacks and figurines like that secondhand. Are they gonna have to do this and take pictures of everything that they sell? I do not sell guns, coins, electronics, or even a lot of gold unless I accidentally run into a piece at a rummage sale or something or other, a little something or other. So, like I said, it does need to be clarified more. I just can't take a picture of every single thing. Anybody that, these folks over here saw my booth this past weekend. I have thousands of pieces of glassware and linens and little toys and things like that. I can't take a picture of all that. Please clarify.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Again, if you can state your name, your address, and 3 to 5 minutes, thank you.
I'm Rick Calavito, 9 North Marvin Ave, Auburn, New York. I agree with everyone that we need a law. It's not the question. It's how it's written. We need clarity. There's so much that needs to be done to make it work for everybody. Years ago, when they tried to pass this, we fought it, and we met with now Chief Butler. He remembers. We all sat down together. There was about 4 or 5 of us dealers, and we said, we want to work with you. We will sit down and come up with something that will work for everybody. Nobody ever called us. We tried. And you come up with a law without even talking to us. We know how the business works. Talk to us. We'll come up with something that works for everybody. We need clarity. What is an exemption? What's the exemption mean? You call people, nobody will talk to us. What happens to the dealers who come in here and set up at Holiday Inn and buy gold for 2 days? Do they have to get this license? They can walk into this county, buy all they want, and walk out. What about the dealers that come in from outside these counties, other counties, daily, buying out of houses, buying here, buying there, buying from people who have stolen it? They walk right away. So you're condemning us to get this license and be, have to do this. What about all these other people? So we wanted to work with you people. We wanted to sit down and do something. Nobody ever called us. It's not that we don't want to. And I'll give the example, and I gave it to Chief Butler. When we're educated on what was stolen, we want to look for it. We don't want to buy stolen goods. And the example is, I hate to say it, but years ago, a man had a bicycle stolen, Richard Dushertinsky. Nobody knew until they did a news article, because he's known around town. There he was, pictured, his bike was stolen. A year later, I get a phone call. oh, I hear you buy bicycles. I says, yeah. So I go down on Underwood Street, there's the bicycle. I said, where did you get it? They told me. I said, this is a stolen bicycle. I called the police, we got the bike back. Without that article and me knowing that was stolen, I would have bought it and I would have sold it. Now I'm dealing in stolen goods. Education is everything. And we brought it up, let's develop a website in Cayuga County. Whenever something is stolen, put it on that website. We, the dealers, can check it every day. We're out there every day. We see it show up, boom, we call. It will help. Or, you know, we'll all be willing to sit down and come up with something. But we've got to come up with something, clarify it so we all know. You put in there exemption. What does that mean? Tell us. You know, we're willing to work with you people, but just to put this on us without even talking to us. You maybe talk to one or two people. Talk to all of us. Maybe we can come up with something that will work for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. And again, your name, your address, and 3 to 5 minutes if you would.
My name's Scott Marsden. I own the Auburn, me and my wife own the Auburn Gold and Silver Exchange, excuse me, 200 Grand Ave. There's just a couple things. I did read the law that's up for vote here. Thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate it. I've spoken to a couple of you already. What we do at the shop there, I do a lot of deals. We do a lot of deals with dealers. Like I would buy some coins from a dealer that he probably has held already. I think there should be something in that law stating that if he's a legitimate dealer, we shouldn't have to copy all his stuff down and put it on leads online. It's just really cumbersome to do if he's a legitimate dealer. And we also buy large coin collections, and I think it should be stated in the law that it's just the gold, silver, and platinum part of it. I mean, we may buy a big coin collection that's got a couple of books of pennies, nickels, silver dollars, etc. I mean, it's going to be hard to take pictures and list every little thing that's down there. I think it should be specified if it's just got gold content, silver content, or platinum, or any gold or silver jewelry or platinum jewelry. Just think it's just me and my wife at the shop, and it's kind of hard to kind of input that there without hiring somebody, and we really can't hire somebody. So I hope you guys can come up with some specifics in there to kind of help us out as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Unless I'm missing someone, no one wants to speak at this point, so we'll move on. I will ask as we go through, so this is not, again, not your only chance. If you decide later that you have something to say, you'll be allowed to do so. There are 2 other local laws that we're considering tonight. Does anyone want to speak on either of those? Great. So if I could have a motion to dispense with the minutes, the reading of the minutes from the last meeting, and to approve them? Mr. Forrest, Mr. Foley, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Dr. Durant, if you could state your name, your address, and limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes. Oh, never, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. First, want to recognize that I'm joined here today by the Chair of our Board of Trustees, Dr. Linda Van Busker. Certainly, I had a written report forwarded, but just a couple of items that I want to highlight tonight. One, we just started our spring semester a week ago, and our enrollment has reached our target for the spring, so that continues to be on a positive note that our enrollment is on pace to meet and perhaps slightly exceed our goals for this academic year. In addition to that, we are in the early stages of doing our budget development for next year. And a big piece of that, we always start with reviewing the the executive budget proposal, and then certainly going through the legislative season. A great deal of information and following has occurred in recent weeks with the governor's announcement of the new Excelsior Scholarship Program. And certainly, as a public higher education leader, it's something that I warmly welcome to listen to the governor and to see a program that is to entice people to consider public education, and in particular, to be looking at the affordability of education and trying to support people. With that initiative, we also then have to look at what the proposals are at this point for supporting us in state aid. And last week, when the governor's budget was released for community colleges in particular, it is proposed that the community colleges receive flat base aid for next year, as we did for this year. Although in certain circumstances, it's something that we, given the climate, we can sometimes support. But for community colleges, what that means is we are actually paid in aid, reimbursed for related to enrollment. There isn't actually a flat line like there is in the county, a sponsorship model, where there's a maintenance of effort model, which you can always expect a particular baseline effort. So what that would mean for us, given a number of years and of being down in enrollment, would actually be a significant loss in state aid. So our advocacy efforts really begin in the coming weeks to working with our elected officials and certainly advocating for our efforts to try to get an increase in support from the state. And ultimately what we want to do is to be able to ensure the same thing, which is affordability, and to be able to keep our tuition costs down, to be able to make sure that access for affordable, high-quality education is our priority. So I'm very hopeful that as we go through the legislative process, go through our budget development process, and certainly to the point in which we come to you, the legislature, that we're all focused on the same thing, which is committing to have best education we can, most comprehensive education that we can, with quality programs and services to support our students, and to be able to keep the costs down. But in order to do so, we need to be able to find our resources elsewhere. And we'll be advocating and certainly telling our success stories to the community in the coming months as we advocate through the legislative season. In addition to that, I want to just mention that, as we're kind of entering the spring semester and entering the second half of our year, we're going to be focused on really examining many of our physical space needs on campus. Our Board of Trustees certainly has a priority to be, working with me to be able to identify a little more clearly of what our needs are on both campuses, certainly in Auburn and as well in Fulton. Because part of our vision for being, the college of tomorrow that we want to be is we know that we need to modernize the facilities. We know we want to look at possibilities to, expand some of our academic programs. We want to make sure our science labs are modern to support students and support our programs. And certainly looking at athletics and recreation to really complement what it is that we're trying to achieve. So I'm hopeful that in the next several months, we'll be really fine-tuning our vision, defining those impacts, and being able to share with you what we think is certainly an ambitious but an important vision for our college moving forward. So stay tuned, but I wanted to be able to make sure we can kind of lay the groundwork of something that's very important to us and that we'll be working on in the coming months. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Doctor, in regard to regionalization, are you in favor of the regionalization that we've been talking about for the last few years?
Absolutely. I would never advocate for a program that I wasn't in favor of. The regionalization concept, I think, for me, has multiple steps. And really, the conversation starts with, we as an institution have a significant presence, obviously here in Cayuga, and have since its inception. But we also have a significant presence in Oswego County and Fulton, as well as online. And I think the basic